And a great feeling to be back on your Sunday afternoons here at Inters Racing League for the top tier in our league. It is Tier 1. It is the quick guys, and thankfully I am not in a seat this season because I would sort of be at the back, but it's going to be a fascinating race considering what we saw on Friday night and Saturday afternoon. It is very, very close between a lot of these guys and should be very interesting to watch. Scotty here with you once again in the comms box for Season 7 here at Inters, but this time not in Tier 2, in Tier 1, watching the big boys, so it should be fascinating to watch. But thankfully, I am not by myself this afternoon. I'm with one of the best in the region here in the F1 esports community. I am obviously talking about JP. How are you on your Sunday afternoon?
I am simply fantastic. It is great to be here in Inters Racing League for Season 7. Round 1 for Tier 1 here in Silverstone. Pre-season testing offered a lot of action, a lot of, opportunities for team principals to choose their drivers and get a better idea on who they may have wanted, and also just showcase the driver's pace overall. We're getting into short qualifying very shortly, but it's been a fantastic showcase for these drivers. Also, last season, what a season we had. And just getting into it, I'm sure things are only going to get more competitive as time goes on. As you mentioned, the grid looking just as competitive as ever, even more competitive, you could argue, with some of the highest rated and most competitive drivers in the entirety of the Oceanic region. But it's fantastic to be here. Fantastic to be joined by you. We don't normally do commentary very often, so it's nice to be alongside you. And can't wait to get into qualifying.
Yeah, and obviously we usually pair up, but fantastic to have you alongside me. But crossplay for the first time in Inter's history, so that's why our grids are just looking a little bit stronger. And we'll go through the names very shortly. Qualifying has just about got underway, so we'll quickly flow through the calendar as we can have a bit of a look there. 19 rounds, we've got 3 sprints, 2 Enduros, but obviously starting at the home of British Motorsport at Silverstone. Then obviously we head to Bahrain next weekend for our first Enduro, so that should be a fascinating watch. But yeah, quite a long season. That will take us right up to nearly Christmas time. But yeah, should be fascinating. Obviously, the OFI as well. They've got a couple of events towards the end of the season, so it should be fascinating to watch, especially for a couple of these quick guys that want to try and get into that particular series. That should be fascinating indeed. We'll quickly have a look at our lineup. This is your full-time drivers for Tier 1. Apollo, Pepsi and Noob in the Red Bull, KLX and Aussie 2K go in the Mercedes, Meows Gaming and Cam in Ferrari, Websy and Journay in the McLaren, Cade and Tyler in the Aston. K5 M5, someone who did impress in the preseason in the Alpine alongside Ant WRC. We got Finns and Liquid Jake in the Williams, Yusuf and Checkered Flag in the RB, Blickley and Chillpill in the Sauber, and then Frosty and Bambi rounds out our lineup with the Haas team. JP, obviously some names that obviously we haven't seen here at Inters prior, but there are some very, very quick drivers on that particular lineup this season.
No, absolutely. Like you mentioned before, we've gone to crossplay now. So obviously things are a little bit different. It's no longer just PlayStation. It's now expanding to PC and Xbox players, and it allows for a bit more of a competitive scene inside Inters Racing League. Obviously, we got returning names, Marcus Costa, Apollo Pepsi, people like that, Yusuf Goat as well. I mean, there's a few others I obviously haven't pointed out, but it's obviously just starting to really fire up for an incredible season ahead of us. Obviously, we're getting into qualifying now. 15 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. Marcus Costa was the person ahead of anyone else, but Red Bull has now overtaken him on his out lap and will be the first one on his push lap. Currently just on the hanger straight as he approaches into turn 13 at Stowe, and that Red Bull really starting to fire up his tyres, get some temperature into him before he sets a lap alight. For the first time here in Season 7 for Inters Racing League, IRL well and truly prepared. We have waited very patiently, and F124 finally has come upon us. And across the timing line, here we go, Red Bull. Get started on the first lap here in IRL. Season 7 comes across turn 1 at no problems at all, continuing to show consistency, making sure not to lift off there, has enough downforce to stay flat to the floor as he approaches now into Village and also at the loop at turn 3 and 4 before going into turn 5 at Aintree, before eventually going onto the Wellington straight, making sure to stay flat to the floor, pedal to metal the entire way down before eventually braking just after the 50-meter board, continuing to stay right on the apex, finding great rotation through the car at the moment, great stability as well. We find, as I say that, just kicking out on the rear a little bit. We have seen previously with these cars that they can get a little wobbly on the rear there, they're a bit loose, but then they really start to grip up on the exit of the corner. So it is interesting how they'll kind of play out and what setup people have gone for, as Red Bull obviously making his way out of the exit on the infamous turn 9 Cops before going into Maggots and Beckett's, a obviously left and right hander going back and forth before eventually going onto the exit on Chapel and then onto the hanger straight, where once again we see the Red Bull continuing to push the limits on what is possible in terms of motorsport and continuing to rotate that car, absolutely shred that steering wheel and make sure to get the maximum out of it as the tires continue to grip, and making his way now on the C3 soft compound tires, eventually coming up to the final corner, back onto the Hamilton straight, and it's a 1:27.074, the first lap here in IRL, and a good banker lap to get us started as Marcus Costa goes back up to P1, 26.377.
Yeah, so Marcus Costa reserved for this afternoon. So obviously, Bambi unfortunately unable to make it. So Marcus able to get the Haas drive, but yeah, about 7/10 quicker. There was a bit of an issue that we're sort of dealing with behind the scenes. I think the race will continue. So it might have been a bit of an issue with the custom weather. So I think there's going to be a little bit of weather in the main race. So we'll keep an eye on that as we'll get a few of these details up for everybody at home. I think we've got one of the Mercs, Mr. Cool Cars, a reserve as well. So 4 reserves in this afternoon. So I think Aiden Williams or Aiden Risms, and as well changing his name slightly. But Mr. Cool Cars goes up just behind the full-time teammate and TP of Mercedes, Aussie 2K Goat, in P3. So just a few guys getting their opening bankers in. We've got the 2 Saubers coming across the line. First, Blickley coming across the line in P3. What about Chilpill in P14?
Outlap.
Outlap. But was very strong. I will mention very strong last season. Especially towards the end of the season. Obviously fighting KLX in Season 6 Tier 1. So looking to see how well he's adapted to the new game. And we'll see if they can definitely be on the level of KLX, who I don't believe we have this afternoon, unfortunately. So it will be a new race winner, as we got Riz WRC, that's Ed WRC, without the name change. So just remember who that is. But currently top of the table, only by about just over half a tenth of a second as well. So very close at the moment, with Sean A, I think, going P4 in a 26.7.
Yeah, he took purple in the middle and final sector, Alpine, so he's finding a decent amount of time. Actually, 2 people have taken purple sectors. In Sector 1, it was Chilpill in P15 as he makes his way through into the second sector, but it was F1NZ in the Williams P14 who took down a 35.374 in the second sector, and the Williams is obviously approaching up, but only P4 on the board at 26.466, but on those medium compound tyres may be hiding what could be some significant pace behind him. Let's switch back to Chilpill in P16, had some pace in the first sector. A good personal improvement in the first. Obviously, no time actually on the board, but in comparison to other drivers, has found a solid amount of pace. But now coming around the final corner and back onto the Hamilton straight, a 26.807 only goes ahead of his teammate in P6. However, still has a lot of time he can find. A 26.8 has a lot of opportunities to find time around this circuit, Silverstone. Also, not exactly the shortest circuit on the calendar, 5.891 kilometers in distance, and plenty of corners for you to find that time. Obviously, Chill Pill in that position, but as more cars continue to make their way through, Red Bull comes across the line, but I believe that was just from their outlap, and that was Apollo Pepsi. We'll see how he goes along, and I believe another driver coming across, that was the Alpine of Adam Rizabins, who goes up to P5, 126.774, and his teammate, I believe, just doing his second lap here, maybe getting a bit more practice as well as he continues his race. 10 minutes on the clock here in qualifying, and V-Carb setting down a fantastic time on the board, a 26 flat, 0.3 improvement there. Absolutely incredible times being set down. Actually, only 2.5 tenths separating between P1 and P2. So Alpine not too far away. But Yusuf Goat, we've seen him before. His pace has been simply incredible in the past, and clearly that may be continuing that way in Tier 1 this season. IRL has really started to showcase these drivers at the fullest extent, and Yusuf doing absolutely to the fullest extent himself.
Yeah, and a man that I did want to watch is Cade McIntyre. He was really, really quick. I hadn't heard a lot from him this season, but as you can see, he goes into P2 only just. But
Websy.
Websy, we know how quick Websy can be. He may have just inconsistencies a little bit in the race, but we know the pure speed that he has, especially on this game. So Websy up the top, but you can see we've only got, what's that, 2.5 hundredths between the top three. That's how close it was. And thinking back to yesterday afternoon in Tier 2, I believe the top 14 were only separated by half a second, especially around this track. We are getting close to a minute 20, I think it was a mid 26, I believe pole was. So very, very close between Tiers 3 and 2, and Tier 1's looking to be the exact same. Tyler in P4. It's good to see him back up there as well. Unfortunately, he had to give up his seat early on last season, but showed some good pace, and I think the last couple of races that he reserved at the end of last season. But good to see Tyler right up there as well. And Marcus down, dropping down to P6. F1NZ, or Fins, I believe he may be also known as. P8 currently on a 26.4, but again, medium tyres, so we'll see if that he's got that extra 4 tenths on the soft tyres. Frosty has retired. That is on track, and that's the old start finish straight, actually.
Yeah, it would be. I'm just. Oh, and that's not the only one. P19 also retiring from the session.
I'm trying to
Just
get.
seeing if that was also on circuit. I believe that may have been. No, it isn't in the pit lane. You can see the V-car blue dot. No, actually, no,
Oh, that was a retirement on track. Yeah, that was a retirement on track, I believe.
Wow. So multiple drivers who are yet to set down a time, also retiring on the circuit, can't seem to keep it in a straight line, unfortunately, and has seen themselves, unfortunately, in quite simple terms, DNF from the session. They'll obviously still be able to compete in the race, but from the back of the grid, which just adds an extra challenge when you have so many competitive drivers going up against each other. Liquid Jake in P18 into Williams obviously hasn't set down a time yet. He's gone purple in the first sector, which is actually only green from what my telemetry is saying, but still finding personal improvements, which is obviously good to see, especially on your first lap out. Someone who may not be so used to Silverstone, new game, new circuit in terms of this season, and Williams just seemingly trying to set down something as competitive as possible, and Williams continuing to go left and right as he makes his way through Maggots and Beckett's, has down the hanger straight already, but that's pretty much no slipstream and toe that the Williams will find in terms of a draft. But up to the top of the hill before you go into the right-hand corner at Stowe, turn 13, before going back down in elevation towards the braking zone. Williams then downshifts to third gear, finding the rotation to the best of his ability. Avoid that sausage curb on the inside line. It can unsettle the car and can completely invalidate your lap time, 26.656. Not bad from Liquid Jake, and a few other drivers continuing to push the margins at the moment. Marcus Costa tried to set down a faster time, invalidated on his first time out, so only a 26.377 still being set down, but personal improvements seemingly being found throughout the entire field.
Yeah, and he went a little bit wide at turn 3 as well, so whether or not he was going to try and do another hot lap, unfortunately he'll have to back out of that. Just seeing who we got, but obviously Liquid Jake P12 moved up, stepping up from Tier 2 into Tier 1 this season, so it'd be interesting to see how we go. I personally haven't seen him for a while, so interesting to see how they go coming into the pit lane. So currently 13th with 6 and just over 6 minutes left to go in the session. Obviously, you could see just as he was coming in, redesigned pit lane, because obviously Silverstone was one of the tracks that they redid, and as you can see, there's not really a wall covering the inside of the pit lane now. So interesting look. Unfortunately, I got disqualified coming into pit lane yesterday afternoon. Obviously, we were under safety car. Thought I let the safety car get far enough ahead, but clearly not. So the drivers, at least in race trim, will have to be a little bit careful of that they don't get caught out. As who was that? I think that was McLaren of
Yeah, it was.
Sean A. So McLaren quite quick in the early stages of round one, first and fifth, and only about 2.5 tenths between the two teammates as well.
I'm still really intrigued by Williams' pace, which was Finn's. I believe he was the one that was on the medium compound tyres, and as I say that, slip of the tongue, but obviously McJammy 481 Dodge, which I believe can just be simplified to Dodge, goes up to P1 in the Ferrari at 125.716, so the first driver into the 25s, but the point I was just making before, Finn's was on the medium compound tyres on his first lap, has switched to soft compound tyres, has gone up to P2, fantastic pace on his side, Ferrari obviously getting the betterment of him, nearly 3 tenths, actually 0.299, so a single millisecond off that 3/10 margin, but simply fantastic times being set down at the moment, and Ferrari getting the absolute maximum from it, and really starting to see some of these new drivers. Obviously, I've not really seen Dodge previously. I think I did maybe a pre-season testing session with him once, but his pace was kind of unknown to me, so it's good to see a lot of fresh faces showing that pace, especially here in qualifying.
Exactly right, and I think he's on the team's order. He's Meowsy Gaming, if I'm not mistaken. So he was definitely going to be one of the big favourites to take out Tier 1. As you can see, 3/10 gap ahead of Finns and Websy. So he's obviously got a time very quick on the board, and we'll wait and see how their race pace is. But we've got 4 minutes left to go in the session. Cade in P2, so showing some good form is the Aston Martin, good speed I should say, and as I said, he's sort of one of the guys I'm looking out for this season, and managed to trim that gap to about 1/10 of a second as he's the only one out on track at the moment, so we are going to have a final run with 3:40 left on the clock. JP, are we thinking anyone could maybe pinch the pole from Dodge, or are we thinking that maybe that time just a little bit too quick? But there's not a lot separating it from P3 down to P13. It's only half a second, so it is still very tight between a lot of these guys.
Well, I mean, I'll give you a little statistic for you. Down from P17 to P1 is where that 1 second margin finally meets. So realistically, this entire field is still quite competitive with one another. But who would take pole position? It is really tough, especially near the front of the field. The gaps are practically non-existent. Obviously, between P1 and P2, there's only 86 milliseconds separating each other. And I am quite intrigued by Cade McIntyre's pace. I'm sure he may get one more run out. Obviously, a few more drivers coming out of the pit lane on a fresh set of C3 soft compound tires. But I think Finn still has an opportunity. Like I said, Cade McIntyre. I believe Dodge still has that opportunity to keep pole position because it's not exactly an easy time to once again correct and also beat. You need to try and keep everything to perfection. Every corner, you need to get the correct amount of throttle. You need to make sure you apply the brake to the correct amount. You don't want to lock up your front or rear tires. You don't want to lock up all your tires. You know, you need to be able to manage your car to the best of your ability, get that perfection to the best of your ability, and see if it works in your favor. So it's not exactly going to be the easiest job for any of these drivers, and the pressure is on, especially with only 2 minutes on the clock. It practically is one run and one run alone. If you get it wrong, that's it. Qualifying's over for you. So you need to get this one lap correct. And if that one lap is good enough to beat the current pole sitter of Dodge, then they'll take it. But either way, everyone on an out lap. Obviously, it looks like Aussie 2K Goat in the Mercedes just getting going on his fast lap. How about you take this one away, Scott? I've been kind of doing it for the entirety of this session, so please be my guest.
No, that's fine. It was sort of looked like all four wheels coming across the finish line, so I'm probably lucky that he didn't actually get a invalidated lap time. But Aussie's problem is going to be some traffic coming into this part as we have the onboard shot as they come around turn 6 and 7. Make it a little bit of a toe from the McLaren coming onto the old start-finish straight. Won't, but obviously 5 cars ahead as we come through Cops. So it is saying that he was on an outlap. I'm positive that he was on starting a fly, so he may have just backed out of it. So
It's
obviously
intriguing because,
game.
to be fair, that may have been Mr. Cool
Actually,
Cars who was pushing.
because it was Aussie's just left the session, so it's actually put him back into pit lane. So unfortunately, Cody's apparently being Cody's. We will hopefully try and get him in straight away. I might get you to do that, JP, because I think he is on PlayStation, so you might be able to get him in if you've got him as a friend. Tyler is up by a couple of tenths, which will get him close to the 25s. He's got coming through Stowe now. He's got a couple of corners, but you can see the traffic gets past one of the Williams on board through Vale. He's only got club corner left to go. A little bit of a recorrection, comes across the line. Lost a little bit of time in that last second, but up by a tenth of a second. So he stays in P6, but closer to the top 5. And have we got...
I don't have Cade actually in the session. It wasn't Cade, sorry. It was Aussie 2K. I don't think I have Aussie either. I just checked it out. I can recheck, but I don't believe
That's
I
right,
have him.
Aussie's
But
joined.
it's all good. He's back in.
That's right,
There you
Aussie's
go.
back in.
And 1 second on the clock. Checker flag has actually now waved.
Yeah,
and
Apollo.
Blicky continuing his push lap. But Apollo Pepsi, as you mentioned, the Red Bull, the next one across the timing line. And what can the Red Bull set down? Goes up to P3 at 25.931. Not bad from the team from Milton Keynes, not too far away from Silverstone. Here at the track we are currently driving at, but a few more drivers coming up to the line. Mercedes only goes P9. Mr. Cool Cars now back down to P10. Looks like Liquid Jake in the Williams goes up to P7. A few more drivers continuing to make their way across. Marcus Costa goes back up to P5. Only a 26.034. Couldn't break into the 25s. Few more drivers, only 3 who set down that time. Dodge still in P1. Currently no further purple sectors to his name as the Ferrari continues to push the limits. The prancing horses are clearly prancing along here, but into P1 he currently stands. And will it continue to be an improvement in P1? I do doubt. Personal improvements I do see, so potentially, but no purples, so it could be there. And 25.782, so it wasn't, but only 65 milliseconds off his time. Let's continue back up. McLaren as well. Looks like further improvements may be coming in their favor. Websy, the next one across the line. Obviously, Sean A, only in P11, but Websy does a fantastic lap and setting a lap alight indeed, a 125.702, and out of the absolute blue indeed. 14 milliseconds separated between P1 and P2, so McLaren has clearly found some time on his side. We still have Williams and Finns as well, P6. Can he find any further time? No, he's 40 seconds, well, at least a 142, so down on his time. And Aston Martin of Tyler coming back in. Everyone is practically done across the pit lane or across the checkered flag, and that has completely stunned me. Absolutely out of the blue. 702, 716, 14 milliseconds, but Websy's got the job done on pole position. And if this doesn't speak words on what type of competition we're going to have in the race, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, 100%. As I said, Websy, great final lap to put him on pole position. Yusuf was only a couple of tenths off, improved up into P4, but yeah, it's going to be close. And I was having a look further down. There's nothing separating a lot of these drivers. It's going to be very interesting. I think Sauber's probably a little bit of the disappointment. Blickley, obviously, we saw running wide just before Club Corner and would have cost him a lot of time. So really unfortunate. But we'll have a look at our result. It's Websy and Dodge will be your front row. Cade, Yusuf, Apollo, Vince, Marcus Costa, Aiden, Liquid Jake, Tyler are your top 10. And then we've got Sean A, Mr. Cool Cars, NWRC, Noob, Aussie 2K, Goat Blickley, Chill Pill, Cam, we've got the RB and Frosty. Apologies for the RB name. NWS or MJ. I'll just double check. Which name that is as we load into the race. So I think we got some weather in this race. So I'm expecting to see. Oh, that's not only wet, that's pissing down. So
yep.
this is going to be an interesting one for the drivers. Considering that they thought we'd have a dry. I've seen an image that Apollo's put in that he actually did set the weather to custom. So it's obviously the dynamic has absolutely thrown that out the window. Oh, sorry, not dynamic. Approximates. The approximates throwing that out the window. So, good luck to these drivers.
Yeah. Well, I
eh,
mean, please continue.
no, I was just going to say, yeah, it's. Thankfully, I'm not out on track, so it is going to be interesting to see how these guys cope. But I don't believe we had any rain in the first two races in round one. So obviously, a bit of a mixture, and this is what real life Silverstone had yesterday or last night, going into this morning. As if anyone watched the F2 feature, absolutely bucketing down there. So be very interesting. Obviously, formation lap is on, so we'll be able to check tyres before the guys get underway.
Well, I mean, realistically, there's only two options you can do. It is absolutely bucketing it down, and quite simply, the weather is horrific at the moment. It is not going to be fun for these drivers to try and keep the car under control, have good car control management, manage the tires, manage the fuel, because you're going to be on the throttle a lot more, trying to keep the torque up as you make your way through each exit of every corner. So fuel will be used a little bit more as you try and keep, as I mentioned, that torque up, trying to keep that throttle applied so you can maximize the exit of every single corner to the best of your ability. But you will be braking earlier. Obviously, wet conditions can cause sliding, and as I can see from pole position, and if we quickly have a look at the tire telemetry, we can see practically everyone is on those wet compound tires. There are only two drivers who've gone for the green compounds, and that is Finns and GLX, surprisingly. So your previous Season 6 world champion here in Tier 1 has gone for the intermediates. So maybe finding confidence that we previously didn't see. I will mention this. I did create a Series F1 the other week or two, and something I did notice was that when you're on intermediates in wet conditions, if your tires get up to temperature, or at least in that temp window for the intermediates, they can still work in wet conditions. So maybe Ferrari or Williams could actually understand the fact that those intermediates can still be competitive against the wets, maybe even faster, and use it towards their ability.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm just sort of discussing the weather conditions. But interesting that Finns and Cam have gone intermediate tyres. So clearly, it's going to dry up or get a little bit drier.
Well, actually, Scotty,
it,
I have some, what do you call it, a weather forecast, a live telemetry weather forecast. And for the next 60 minutes, it is going to be absolutely pouring it down. Full wet conditions.
which actually won't matter at all because I believe we are red flagging this. So probably a relief to the drivers. So obviously the custom weather's played up because obviously we don't want, because the drivers obviously were expecting a cloudy race but then heavy rain. Obviously perfect realistic weather that we have. So obviously it would have been announced prior. So
yeah, red flag. It's
yes,
been deployed.
yeah. So obviously the guys probably a little bit thankful for that. So and I can't really blame them for that as well. So, but
Well,
that's that done as everyone's doing a few donuts. So we'll have a look at this restart. We know these restarts can be a little bit crazy.
especially with AI. Here we go.
Yeah, so I'll get you to take away the first restart while we try and set up this new lobby.
I will gladly be the man of entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. Look at those lights. Look at them nice and bright. 2, 3, 4, vibrant lights. And there's a drive-through immediately. Multiple drive-throughs as clearly chaos ensues here at the Silverstone Wet Grand Prix. That will clearly not be taking place. But yeah, as you can see, VCAR P5 going wheel to wheel with the Red Bull of Apollo Pepsi, making sure to actually avoid each other, and a bit of racing taking place before a big old pile up. Plenty of debris, plenty of carbon fiber, and plenty of front wings being dismantled along the first couple of corners, and that has completely gone sideways immediately. Yellow flag deployed. It's only a VSC, weirdly enough, so even though there was about 15 cars that decided to take each other out, only a VSC deployed. Don't know what FIA is planning to do there, as the kick of Blicky just scraping along the gravel there. More drivers continuing to make their way into retirement, and a few more drivers also causing a bit more debris as we go onto the Wellington straight. Now a safety car finally deployed but it doesn't look like any of these drivers seem to care as they continue to try and take each other out one by one. Liquid Jake kind of drifting along through into Brooklands, can't seem to crash out of this one, but will be doing momentarily. Websy with a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. Hopefully none of them do that in the actual session when we do go racing. Frosty doing the exact same thing for ignoring yellow flags. Once again, same thing applies, maybe even foreshadowing, but I do highly doubt it, as more drivers kind of scrape their way into the beginning or at least the ending of the second sector, and we can only see the 4 remaining drivers. Obviously, a few of them are probably AI, so I'm sure maybe 1 or 2 of them will be accidentally continuing, but it would be coming to an end very, very shortly. And there you go, end of the session has been pulled. A red flag is out, and that gives us a better excuse for why there was a red flag. Big pile up into the first couple of corners due to heavy wet conditions.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll switch back to our feeder screen, and yeah, definitely. Obviously, a shame. Obviously, the game. I'm going to blame the game on that. That obviously it decided to give us a, let's just say, just a shit weather sort of situation, considering what it was meant to be. So obviously, the guys will get all that sorted, and hopefully, we should be back fairly shortly. But I will try and get up the grid for everybody at home. But actually, what we might do, we'll head to our track details. We'll leave that on. If you can see that on the screen, JP obviously can have a bit of a chat what the guys are sort of expecting in this 26 lap race.
Obviously, I need to try and remember what happened in qualifying, but obviously it was an exciting qualifying session that did take place, and it's going to go into a fantastic race session as well. But as you can see by the Pirelli tyres that you currently see on your screen, C1s, C2s, and C3s, the hardest in the Pirelli range. Obviously, there's also the C0s, but that was only used around Portugal, which has actually now changed for this year's game. It was previously the C0s in F1 23 before they eventually changed it back to the C1, C2s, and C3s. It's the same as Silverstone. As you can also see in terms of circuit information, the traction isn't exactly the best, but it isn't the worst either. And what we love about Silverstone the most, it is a completely diverse and different circuit from what we normally see. It's been around for years upon years upon years upon decades upon decades upon decades, and it's shown history, and it's shown races, and it's shown absolutely incredible racing at the finest amount. Obviously, as you can see also by tire stress, what we've always seen around Silverstone, if it's raining, if it's dry conditions, if it's hot, if it's cold, it doesn't matter what the conditions are, it always does seem to be quite a stressful tyre place for your tyres and can cause quite high degradation. Obviously, if we refer back to what I believe was the 70th or 75th anniversary of Formula One, there was that race at Silverstone, separate from the Grand Prix, where we saw Max Verstappen try and chase down Hamilton, and Hamilton still pick up the win using a tyre puncture. And obviously 2020 was quite a fierce year when it came to tyre punctures in Silverstone. Degradation was quite high, temperatures were high, and that was a really dry circuit at that point. So yeah, at that point it was really just tough for the drivers to try and keep tyres in the perfect management. Obviously, asphalt abrasion is quite low, so that's something also to consider. It's not like a street circuit. It's obviously a track that is managed. The tarmac is made sure it's maintained and in a perfect condition for cars to go racing. Obviously, it's not trying to keep the highest grip optimal, but it's just trying to make sure the track isn't got any damage, any cracks, any real, places where you may get tire, failure for something that's out of your control, something to do with the circuit itself. In terms of asphalt grip itself, still not too bad. Is this the same commentator who was heard in Creator Series Austria? Yes, F2 and F1, that was me. Checkered flag, good to see you once again. And yeah, just getting a better idea of that. A lot of people say to have your camber around the 271, 275 to 150. Obviously, I'm more fond on the camber on GT cars, so I always have it around the 2.5 to 3 range. But obviously, with Formula One, the suspension is stiff. Obviously, in Formula One specifically, there's a lot of options you do have to play with. There's a lot of things you can change in terms of the suspension. However, because of how stiff it can be, getting it to try and get to the point where you're happy with the traction you're getting from the camber can be quite tough, and majority of the time can be really tricky to get it to a number you want it. Obviously, PSI as well, you don't want it on the absolute well, you don't want it on the absolute minimum. Maximum is normally where you want to kind of aim for, as it doesn't degrade the tires too quickly, and it just allows you to just cycle around a circuit just a little bit further on, as degradation just seems to hold on just a little bit longer. Stronger tires due to higher PSI. And obviously, usual stuff, that says 52 laps of action. It isn't, it's 26 laps of action. Short quality's already come to an end, so that gives you a better idea. Race distance says 306 kilometers. Obviously, that isn't that, and I'm not going to calculate that all the way, but we have 5.891 kilometers in one lap of racing around Silverstone, and that gives you a better idea on how long this circuit is. Still significantly shorter than other circuits around the world, especially something like Nürburgring Nordschleife, but does not disappoint in terms of the action that is available. I mean, especially seeing that the laps aren't exactly short either. 1 minute 25s to 1 minute 26s for Formula One cars, even longer for something like British GT, which have anywhere between the 1 minute 40s to 1 minute 50s. So that also gives you a better idea. Obviously, Tier 1 champ last season was KLX. He starts back down in, I believe, P18 or P17 or something like that. So it isn't exactly the closest margin between these drivers. And for the champion especially, someone who seemed to have the pace, I mean, quite consistently and to the fullest extent, can't seem to get it in F124. If that's maybe just not completely understanding the physics so far, if that's making a mistake or two in qualifying, whatever the case may be, he's down in position for what we normally see him from previous seasons. So, and Daniel Starr says he's not racing. I believe that may have been the reserve I was looking at then. So I do apologize if that was the case. I may have been looking at the reserve and looking at the constructor and got it mixed up with KLX. So my apologies on that behalf. But obviously, I was going to use SRC, and maybe I still get to, because obviously it looks like we're going to be switching to maybe cloudy weather instead of the rainy, pouring down weather that we were expecting. Obviously, it was supposed to be overcast, but a few mistakes happened with Cody's, as, you know, kind of expected at this point. But Inter's Racing League Tier 1 Season 7 is looking very exciting. It's looking at the highest pinnacle of motorsport here in IRL. Obviously, the times are close. The times are competitive. I mean, you're not going to get a 125.704 for no reason. And it's clear to see that the times are competitive between every single one of these drivers. Obviously, there was a few drivers who did miss out at the very end of it. You know, a few drivers who only managed to get into the high 126s, but let's not, you know, spite any driver here. A 126 is still a competitive time on the board. It's just unfortunate because Tier 1 has really stepped up the game for competitive level of driving, and the drivers have really started to show what they can do when they are behind the wheel, especially now that crossplay is enabled, and we get to see more drivers from the PC and Xbox side really start to compete and show what they can do on a competitive level. So that also just adds in a touch of, I guess, unease for a lot of these drivers, and just makes things slightly harder on everyone's side. But at the moment, everyone's just kind of waiting for racing to get underway. I am your man, the myth, the legend, JP, obviously joined in the commentary box by Scotty, the other man, the myth, the legend, the bigger legend in my opinion. But we're just waiting to get underway for the race. Short qualifying will not be taking place.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sort of just eating up a bit of time as we just try and sort out this lobby. So we've nearly got everybody ready in, but we'll have a look. That is your pole man, Websy, on a 25.702 versus pole sitter for Season 7 in Tier 1. Fantastic lap time, but as we said, it was very, very close. As this is your grid for Silverstone. As I said, it was 0.014 between the top two. K to 10th behind. Yusuf just under 2 tenths behind. And as you can see, it is very, very close. JP, what are we thinking? Do we think Websy can hold off? Obviously, with potential tyre strategy, we're thinking a lot of drivers went medium soft in the first two tiers we've seen this week. Do we see that sort of strategy again, try and go the softs towards the end, and ERS management as well? Obviously, we saw a few DRS trains, so it is going to be an interesting race with a lot of these guys just trying to work out where the balance is between attack, defense, ERS management, and the like. So who are you thinking about who could take out round one?
Well, I mean, firstly, let's talk about strategy. Obviously, I have a little helping hand by certain people behind the scenes. But we have two different plans, and I do believe this is just going to be a one-stop strategy, especially if it is just going to be dry conditions. And Plan A, softs to mediums, and Plan B, mediums to softs. So it kind of switches between the two, softs to mediums or mediums to softs. Hards aren't really used unless there is a situation where maybe a safety car is deployed, or if there is damage on lap 1. So, for example, if you were on the mediums and there was damage on lap 1 for whatever reason, you box onto the hards. And, obviously, tire lifespan is quite high, especially that we're on the hardest compound in the Pirelli range. Softs can go 21 laps, no problem, and mediums can do 37 laps. So, well and truly past what we could do in terms of race distance. So it actually just gives you an idea on why hards may not need to be used unless it is a complete and utter emergency situation, like damage on lap 1 or for a safety car that may deploy. Obviously, the safety car window for the softs would be anywhere between lap 11 to 23, while the mediums would be anywhere between lap 1 to 10. So just gives you an idea. It's mainly going to stick between the C3s and C2s because obviously they're the second and third hardest tire in the Pirelli range. C3 is the most balanced because it's completely in the middle of the Pirelli range. It gives you a mixture of both grip and also length, endurance on the tire. It's a perfect tire to kind of be on. Obviously, it does kind of fall off a cliff as time continues to progress on, and especially if your tires are starting to overheat, then you can really start to see quite a drop off in pace and quite a spike in degradation. But those C2s and C1s are kind of safe tires, and C1s don't really need to be used, like I said, unless it's under emergency situations. But who do I believe may take it out for round 1 is another tricky question to kind of answer. I mean, you'd like to believe someone in the top 3 or top 5 may take it out, obviously between maybe Webzy or Meowsy Gaming. Obviously between the Ferrari and McLaren, it was only 14 milliseconds that separated them, so it wasn't exactly a high advantage between any of the drivers. Then it started to separate as we went down to P3 with the Aston Martin of Cade McIntyre and Yusuf Goat as well, who just was separated by a bit more time. Apollo Pepsi especially 3/10 down, but these are tenths of a second. They're not exactly separated by much, so I still believe this could be anyone's game, especially if there is mistakes on the board that could be made by someone like Webzy or Meowsy Gaming in the Ferrari. And another thing to consider as well is, as you mentioned, Webzy just having a little bit of inconsistency in previous races and seasons, so that could be something else that may need to be considered. Obviously, a few more supporters in the Twitch chat. We have the letter P just mentioning Williams and wanting to support Sir Frank Williams here in Silverstone. The British Grand Prix, of course, P6 and P9. So they're not exactly in optimal positions, but they're not off by means, and especially by their pace, their time specifically, they're not off by much either. So to be honest, the pace is there. It's just who wants to get the most out of it. And it's going to be intriguing. Who wants to get the absolute maximum and who wants to take this? Who has the consistency? Who has the pace? Who can keep it up? Who can defend? Who can attack? Who can be the best balanced driver? Who can use the strategy to the best of their ability? Who can manage their fuel and their tires the best? This is going to be the intriguing part. And this is the first time we're going to see it in F124. Previous seasons were on F123 and F122. Obviously at that point, completely different physics, completely different tire management, completely different ways of managing your fuel, completely different ways of attacking people or, setting up your car. So this is a completely new challenge for every single one of these drivers as we step into this new game.
Yes, we're just waiting for this grid to be done. So again, big apologies for the delay. I think we're just waiting on one driver. Just a bit of an update. I think that it is wet in Britain at the moment in real life, so this could be very fascinating for the race tonight, 12 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So obviously work out your timings there, but a little bit of wetness, at least for the F3 race. So qualifying wasn't fascinating enough, obviously, with the Brits 1, 2, and 3. It should be an absolutely fascinating race tonight for who can pretty much drive the conditions. Obviously, McLaren really good in practice, but didn't quite have it yesterday. And Ken Max from P4 able to do anything for the top 3.
Thing is, we haven't even reached summer break either. And I had a few people actually ask me about this, and they thought, is Max's title reign also at a potential risk as well. And I thought to myself, well, he's still roughly 100 points ahead of anyone else of Lando Norris and P2. And, it's still really anyone's game. Once you get to around that, middle of the season, you get to summer break and you have that, gap anywhere between 100 to 150 points. You keep your consistency, you keep getting podiums and a few wins here and there, your championship is pretty much secured. But if Max keeps, making mistakes in qualifying, obviously, I believe, I didn't actually end up watching qualifying, but I heard he went into the gravel and may have damaged his floor. So that may also affect his aerodynamic, advantage that he may have. Obviously, the RB20 has fantastic aerodynamics designed by the incredible Adrian Newey. So maybe that's affected as well. So I don't know. It's intriguing. McLaren seems to have the pace. Obviously, it's Mercedes who took down a 1-2 in Silverstone. Maybe, and this is something I've also started to notice with Mercedes, they seem to be better when it comes to cooler conditions, when their tires can just be managed a bit more, because they seem to get overheating tires really easily. And when when the conditions are cooler and, maybe it's a bit colder, or maybe they're on the inters or wet, tires, that's when they're kind of more competitive, because that's when they can manage their tires a lot more. It's cooler conditions, the tires are in the right window, and that's when they can really push and use the most of the grip that they have. I think aerodynamically, the car isn't too bad, and in terms of the engine, they have one of the most reliable engines on the grid using the German engineering of Mercedes. So nothing can really go wrong on that side. So it's just if they can try and keep it all together in the race, and if the conditions are cool enough where their tires don't overheat and they may need to box earlier than probably what they wanted to.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating, but we do have the green flag, so I think we've waited long enough. Let's get into the Tier 1 race here at Silverstone.
Oh yes, I cannot wait. Load in with 10 seconds remaining on the clock, and drivers will have one thing and one goal in mind, and that is to win the British Grand Prix. That is to get your podiums, get the points on the board, have a fantastic opening round here in Tier 1 for IRL. Inters Racing League Silverstone Grand Prix is moments away. We're going to have a formation lap, so we'll get a better idea on where everyone sits on the grid, who will be on which tire, and where we'll go from there. Obviously, we'll have the 5 red lights, and then it is go time.
Yes,
Racing well and truly about to be underway.
Yeah, and drivers, if you are listening, please remember your setups. We do we do not want drivers, unfortunately, having moments with default setups. Because I have a feeling default setups on this game are absolutely crap to drive around. So obviously we haven't got the timer up the top of the screen yet. So thankfully all the drivers have obviously given each other just enough respect that they haven't loaded their setup and just gone straight away. So
it's cheeky, but it's something they can do.
It is actually it doesn't even give me a time. I thought it would have, but obviously another thing with the game. So we are underway for the formation lap. Let's have a look at the tyres. JP, you said soft mediums. Actually,
there you go.
Split down the middle. Actually, I reckon half the field are on mediums, half the field are on softs.
Well, I actually stated that there's probably 2 different strategies people are going to be on. It's rather softs to mediums or mediums to softs. So actually, I kind of expected something like this, where we're going to get a mixture of those mediums to soft compound tires. Obviously, if you're on the softs, you're going to be boxing earlier, so you'll be boxing anywhere between maybe that 8 to 10 range to the 15 to 17 range. So, obviously you'll be boxing earlier, obviously depending on how you're feeling in terms of grip and confidence in the car. The tires, obviously the C3s for the soft compound tires, so like I said, it's one of the most balanced compounder tires in the Pirelli range. It gives you a very optimal amount of time where you have the grip and where the temperature stays inside that window and degradation does stay down. You get a really nice endurance tire out of it, or a tire that just endures more than other tires in the Pirelli range. So yeah, it definitely offers a few things, especially on the board, but I don't know. Personally, for me, whenever I do strategy, I've always preferred doing a bit more of an overcut strategy. I mean, yes, you're probably going to get undercut by a driver who may have boxed previously, but then you have the better grip later into the race. Your tires are not as degraded as maybe someone who would have undercut, and that allows you to just get a bit more, tire grip out of it, gives you a better opportunity to get pace later into the race, where the race comes to you. and then maybe getting that opportunity to re-overtake and potentially take the win in this. So yeah, right now it's kind of split down the middle in terms of softs and mediums, which is exactly what I expected. The top two on those mediums before the P3 and 4 positions of Cade McIntyre and Yusuf go to the soft compound tires. But strategy well and truly split. This race evenly balanced. The drivers getting ready for some competitive racing ahead of us. 26 laps of action ahead of us. 5.891 kilometers in distance. Over 15 corners. We wait one final time. Everyone will head back into neutral gear, where they will line up in their grid slots. And they will all refuse to blink as we wait for the lights. But eventually, the green flag is waved. And eventually, hold your breath, ladies and gentlemen, 3, 4, 5 red lights. The lights go out into Pelt's Metal here in the Silverstone Grand Prix for round 1 of Tier 1. McLaren gets a good getaway. Dodge just getting a bad getaway. Bit of wheel spin on the rear end. Aston Martin goes up to P1. It's a fantastic getaway from the Aston Martin to Cade McIntyre, making sure to defend the outside line, staying right on the middle of the circuit. Websy in P2 now. McLaren down a position. Yusuf on the outside line, getting the maximum against the Ferrari. Yusuf up to P3 immediately. Fins up to P4 on those medium compound tyres. Looks like a kick potentially running wide on the Wellington straight, and racing well and truly underway now. Alpine going down the inside as P8 now goes in his favour, making sure to try and defend against Dodge. Dodge has lost position after position. He's now down multiple and already at 7 positions lower. He was P2 from P9 now. Unfortunate for the Scuderia. The prancing horses are continuing to try and push along. Websy already separated by 0.5 of a second against Cade McIntyre in P1. McLaren of Chamonix in P11 at the moment, trying to bring himself closer towards the Red Bull. I'm a noob in P10. Can't seem to get it done, but the team from Milton Keynes not too far away from Silverstone, really starting to go to the rear diffuser of the Ferrari of Dodge. Dodge doesn't seem to have the top end speed. We saw that down the Wellington straight. Will Red Bull think about it? No. But there's already ERS flashing on the rear end side of the Ferrari down in P9 as Red Bull continues to potentially size up a move. Can't seem to get it done. Racing well and truly underway here at the British Grand Prix under drier conditions. Haas on the outside line. Bit of a wiggle on the rear end. Slight contact made between the Haas and kick down at P12 and 13. More drivers making mistakes as Tyler goes into the barrier, losing a piece of his front wing. And yellow flag deployed as Ferrari comes into the pit lane. GLX down in P19 with a front wing change. So already someone making too much damage in terms of debris. Well and truly green flag running, racing underway. Williams goes spinning as well. What a fantastic start, Scotty.
Yeah, look at Jake spinning on the inside. We know that Dodge actually got forced wide onto the grass at turn 4 from, I think, one of the Red Bulls. So that's why they've lost all those positions. And Dodge and Noob still going at it side by side. And I think Noob's finally got the position done. So needed that. And having a look going through comps now. You can see on board with the Ferrari, really needs to get past the Red Bull. Cam's having a bit of an issue in the first sector. Yellow flag for him, but he's recorrected himself. DRS obviously activated at the end of lap 1, so another lap for overtaking opportunities. Just going to sit on board this little battle up front. Cade has that 3/10 gap at the moment. No passing to be done further up. It's got to be Marcus around the outside of Aiden. That's Stowe. Great overtake for the reserve Haas driver. Up into the top 5 and need to start closing that gap down to the top 4, and Sean A gets past Dodge. Dodge really struggling in the opening couple of laps.
Yeah, you can also see almost 3 wide taking place down onto the Hamilton straight. Doesn't even take place, but Riz up to P6 in the Alpine. His teammate up to P5 now. Aiden getting absolute maximum pace from it, up 2 positions, but it's actually 7 positions gained for his teammate in P6, and clearly has the pace on his side. 2.5 tenths separating him to his Alpine teammate. DRS as well, he's going to have the slipstream and toe advantage, and now with the draft in his favor, goes down the inside, goes the Alpine driver, gets the rotation that was necessary, no problems at all, and the French constructor goes up to P5 at once. 8 positions for the Alpine driver, who's now up to P4, and a few more drivers continuing to fight away down near the back of the field. Looks like that's between the two Mercedes drivers. Aussie 2K Goat up to P14. Mr. Cool Cars down in P15. Frosty Oz in P16, but 3 positions higher from where he was. So actually doing a bit more of a positive side than what we originally saw. Haas as well, seemingly looking to go fighting against the Alpine drivers, and still hasn't made the move stick yet, but it's getting there. My controller has died, so I can't see anything continue.
No, that's all right. We got change for the race lead. Yusuf overtakes Cade with DRS just before Stowe. So, new race leader, the RB of Yusuf. He'd be a little bit disappointed that he qualified 4th, but he's made those grounds up straight away. As we've got Ant getting the move. We've got a bit of issue. It's Marcus. So, had a bit of a spin and big slide. So he's corrected himself now, but that's a whole bunch of positions that he's lost. So I'm just wondering if there was a little bit of contact at Vale that sent him all the way down, but he'll be a little bit annoyed. Looks like he's got his wings still attached, so no end plates off that. So, is there's nearly contact between Apollo and Marcus.
End plate now.
Yeah, so unfortunate for Marcus, so we'll just keep an eye on him, obviously on the medium tyre, so we'll want to go a little bit longer to change as we got Dodge ahead of Noob on the inside up into P7, and I think it was the 2 Alpine swapping positions as well. So top 4 have sort of gapped the rest of the field a little bit, and that will help those 4 get away. We saw if you're in clear air and not battling too hard, you can gain a lot of time. As we saw the letter P do yesterday afternoon, clear out front, even with his soft tyres dying. Just that battle from 2nd down to 7th was just able to just keep that gap just because of the fighting that next group was doing, as well that's a little bit wide from Aiden, so could be a little bit vulnerable coming down towards Stowe, and I think that's going to be an easy teammate switch up into P5. Does Ant WRC go?
It wasn't the first time we've seen Alpine switch as well, and Haas was actually there before. That was Marcus Costa before unfortunate contact going directly into this chicane right here. Unfortunately, when we went into the final chicane at Vale, unfortunately just couldn't keep it together, and Haas lost out on the rear end, I believe, contact to one of the Alpines or even the Ferrari of Dodge. Either way, whatever the case may be, Haas down in position for where he was, and Yusuf go down to P2. Cade McIntyre sending down a move. Doesn't look like it's going to stick on the board, though. DRS will now be in the favour of the B car, except I believe it would have been Aston Martin still has an opportunity to try and pull away there. So the British constructor here at the British Grand Prix having a bit more in his favour. McLaren not too far away from Yusuf Goat either, starting to approach the rear diffuser, getting a bit more of slipstream and tow in his favour. Websy and P3 just trying to maximise the best of his ability, and Finn's also trying to bring himself closer. This could be a top 4 shootout if it continues in this direction. The mediums will be feeling a lot better after lap 8. Those softs should be boxing around the lap 8, lap 9 time. So it's really quite a short stint that you normally find around there. And it can still be a little later into the session as well, because it can be anywhere between lap 8 to around lap 15. It depends how confident they are feeling. Either way, DRS now active, and a bit of a DRS train forming on this top 4. And right now the Williams bring himself a little bit closer, and a bit of fighting, a bit of a niggle happening between P2 and P1, but Yusuf Goat just missing out just a little bit, and Dodge up to P5, making a double overtake against the 2 Alpine drivers. Aiden Risenman's up to P6, trying to bring himself closer. Down the inside goes the Alpine driver, and a sudden move now goes wheel to wheel with the Ferrari driver. Bit of a kick on the rear end, but Ferrari's going to continue to push it all the way to the timing line. Lap 6 of 26, and racing really starting to fire up. Have a look at that midfield on the broadcast camera, really showing you what type of pace we're showing on display here in Tier 1 Season 7 for round 1 at the British Grand Prix. Dodge continuing to bring himself closer towards Aiden. Can't seem to get it done in the Alpine, so he'll stay in P5. Riz back up to P7. SE flicking on wheel to wheel with the Red Bull of Ivan Noob in P9. He falls down, and Shawnee on the inside line. Slight contact to the Red Bull, but on the inside line, can he get the move finally stuck in stone? Maybe that little bit of hard defending. McLaren goes off nearly into the barrier, but onto the grass, and Shawnee losing out on multiple positions through into the midfield, now into the lower pack as Ferrari continues his charge on P5.
Yeah, we don't have enough screens to watch all the battling, but fantastic over the last lap and a half. Unfortunate for Shawnee to be all the way back down in 17th, but at least it seems like he's still at the back of this train and without damage, so it's not a complete wasted effort. But obviously just that slight contact. Meanwhile, we've got Dodge again fighting the two Alpines. I was going to mention the lap before that the Alpines, they were...
Top fighters though, Cade
Yeah.
McIntyre just changing the lead now up to P1. Goes the Aston Martin actually out of the blue as well. Cade McIntyre, we didn't really see it was Websy who was originally looking to maybe go wheel to wheel with Yusuf, but Cade has now gone into P1, and Aston Martin seemed to have the pace earlier on in qualifying, but really starting to step it up as he goes into the lead of the race. Sorry, continue as you were.
No, that's right. There's just two. It's you got the battle for the lead, and then this angry pack will go up to. We'll show them some love for the top pack, and it is Yusuf trying to fend off Websy. Three behind will have DRS. Cade, I don't think he's got the gap to. I know he did, able to defend, and a little bit of a lock up from the RB keeps Websy behind. Websy obviously will be feeling a little bit better on those new medium tyres. The sauce maybe just starting to hit that drop off point. So we'll just keep an eye on it. The top four very, very close, within a second between four cars. And then you got the Dodge-led battle.
Aston Martin just kicking on the rear of the exit.
Contact.
Opportunity for Yusuf to go up there. You're right, contact was made. And also with this constant defending taking place between Yusuf and Websy, Finns has been brought into the fight a little bit closer. DRS once again, someone's have to go on off the track, and that was Cade McIntyre. Another warning will go towards his name. Yusuf Goat now goes wheel to wheel with the Aston Martin. McLaren's going to make it 3 wide now, goes up into the inside line, sends it, great laking, and you can see as he continues to push the limit, that I meant braking late, but whatever the case may be, continuing into Vale chicane, wheel to wheel between the Aston Martin and Williams. Now you can see Aston continuing onto the final corner. Can he bring himself closer towards the Williams? No. Finn's now up to P3, and Cade McIntyre, who was into P1 previously, now down 3 positions, all in a single sector of racing. Simply fantastic at the top level of IRL. And right now, VCarb now leads us away. Yusuf Goat back up into P1, but Websy's going to continue this push onwards and upwards. DRS will be in his favor, but a bit of a kick on the rear there will start to separate the gap a little bit further. 4.5 tenths with the Slipstream and Toe now in there, but also with Finns with DRS. Doesn't look like McLaren's going to get any further ahead of anyone else. 2 tenths still separating between P2 and P3, and racing still high in the top part of this circuit and in the field. Right now, Aussie 2K go down to P14 against Frosty Oz in the Haas, and right now, Williams staying in P3 as racing just starts to cool back down from the top.
Yeah, I was going to mention that the Dodge group closed up by a second before that battling. So these guys are just going to be a little bit careful. They don't want to get their lead too much. But I'm having a look at the mini-map. Dodge has only got 3 tenths ahead. So we're going to have more overtakes down this particular straight coming onto around Stowe Corner. And it's got to be Yusuf defending the inside on Websy. But Websy straight past with DRS. And Websy retakes the lead as Dodge able to defend from the big train behind. Obviously, Marcus I think had a spin at Maggots, I believe, so sent him all the way back down to second last. So just a couple of issues with a couple of these drivers. Not sure if there was contact. Liquid Jake does make a position up into the top 16. No, because Shawnee come in to the pits, wants off those soft compound tyres, will try and do a bit of an undercut, and we'll see how the McLaren will go. Meanwhile, his teammate is up front, but I reckon those medium tyres, he'll try and sprint away. It's going to be Yusuf that's going to have to look to the rear of Finns as they closed up, but top 4 stay in the order that they were on the start of lap 9. So soft compounded tyres, Yusuf and Cade, they're the two that have to come in first. When do they come in? Do they want to come in as early as possible, get the undercut, or do they want to try and extend this stint?
Well, literally as early as possible is right now on lap 8. I mean, technically it's lap 9, but the compounded tyres itself is 8 laps old. Williams Finns also bring himself closer towards P2 in the V car, but yeah, you're right. Do they want to do it as early as possible? Do they want to box now? Those soft compound tyres will be starting to bleed a little bit more. They're balanced tyres. They have good grip and they endure more than other soft compound tyres in the Pirelli Rangers V-Carb. On the outside line, Yusuf Goat will use the traction towards his availability, and maybe that's our answer to the question. Right now, Yusuf clearly still has the confidence in those soft compound tyres, and at least on V-Carb's side, not coming into the pit lane and still staying out in P1. Yellow flag, though. Haas has made a mistake. That's Marcus Costa again. A little bit more inconsistency in his favor. A driver who loves to go for the American constructor. Unfortunately, now that's his second time bringing out a yellow flag down to P17. One was out of his control. unfortunately this time getting a little too overzealous on the throttle, on the loud pedal. And have a look at this, Apollo Pepsi down the inside is also Fins up to P2 against Websy, but still on this midfield area. Red Bull on the outside line of Apollo Pepsi, and we'll have to switch over to the podium positions very shortly. Marcus Costa retiring from the session as Red Bull goes up to P10. Also, Websy down to P3. Fins has now stuck into P2, and Williams really starting to put something on show against Yusuf Goat, and really starting to showcase what he can do as a driver when he's given the opportunity to fight for P1, which is going to be now. He's approaching into Cop's corner, and it's still going to be in the favor of VCAR, but if he can get good exit, if he keeps his momentum, if he uses the grip towards his advantage, this is where we get to see the deficit between the mediums and the soft compound tires. No one's coming to the pit lane apart from Sean A in the McLaren. So, what can VCARB set down on the medium compound tires for the C2s? Using the DRS and slipstream and toe towards his advantage. He's going to use it all at once. Down the inside goes the Williams driver. Websy on the outside line. It's still will to will between the VCARB. VCARB still staying out on those soft compound tires. Cade McIntyre in P4 coming into the pit lane now, making sure to hold before any type of penalty for speeding in the pit lane is attempted. Right now you can see Cade McIntyre in P1 just for the split second before now Fins, who took the lead of the race through into turn 13 at Stowe, goes up to P1, and Williams, now the new race leader here at the British Grand Prix, and it really starts to show diversity in the drivers and in the circuit. The fact that we get so many different race leaders so far, a bit of a kick on the rear there. Maybe this is Websy's opportunity to get back up into P1. McLaren will go will to will with DRS and slipstream and toe towards his advantage. Inside line doesn't even need to brake before the overtake is done, and McLaren back up to P1.
Yeah, I think that was smart from great battling and great call from yourself. But yeah, I think that's smart from Cade. Get out of this battle. Try and do a bit of an undercut. You can see towards the back he has a bit of clear air. He's got about probably 10-15 seconds to the next car in front. So this is the time to sort of just push those medium tyres. Hard compounded tyres and just get a little bit of a gap. Because I have a feeling Websy and Fins will try and get to the soft compounded tyres. So they'll be out for a few more laps yet, but Websy, about half-second noob, is our first driver to pick up a 3-second time penalty for track limits after 11 and a half laps. But we're going to see Fins and Websy go again, and that's an easy move from Fins, able to take the racing line through Stowe. So change for the lead yet again. Do we see the RB come in? Most certainly. Yusuf has to cover off Cade, so we'll keep it on that battle in about 25 seconds time.
Well, those mediums will be boxing anywhere between right now on lap 11 all the way to lap 18. So there's a bit more room for, what they want to do in terms of strategy. Do they want to cover off any type of undercut that may take place with someone like Yusuf now coming into the pit lane? You also have Riz in P9 in the Alpine, and also you have P11 of Mr. Cool Cars in the Mercedes. So now down to P12. So do they want to think about coming into the pit lane this time round, or do they believe they still have the pace to push on and try and use the grip and the traction that they have on these medium compound tires to think about an overcut strategy? And even if they are undercut, they'll still have the grip in their favor when they do come out on a new set of tires, which will be the softs, as Cade McIntyre with a 3-second time penalty.
It's going to be close, and actually Cade on those hard tires, wrong decision. Yusuf made the overcut work.
Whoa, that's a lot of hards.
And on a lot on the softer compound and rubber too, on the medium tyres compared to Cade's hard. So did Cade just go the wrong decision? Did he need to maybe go medium tyres and then just try and hang it out on those mediums? Because those hards, clearly you figured he would have had the undercut most certainly, but just did not have the grip. And he's going to struggle to stay with Yusuf now, so we'll definitely keep an eye on these two. But really unfortunate as more drivers picking up penalties. Meanwhile, up front, it's about 3/10 of a second. These guys will stay out. Noob up into the podium positions now, ahead of Dodge. But again, these two yet to stop. But Noob does come in. I'm wondering if they'll go hards or try and go sauce. Oh, but he speeds in a pit lane. It was barely. It was barely, but that's what a pit lane speed limit is on this game now. 10 seconds, and it will cost you big time.
Wow, that was quite severe. 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That is not exactly the smallest penalty to have against your name, but that's what you get when you try and break, I guess, safety violations, code of conduct that you'd have in something like that with the speeding in the pit lane. It's for the safety of everyone in the pits and also for yourself as a driver, as McLaren goes up to P1. Websy once again taking the lead of this race against Fins in the Williams, also on 12-lap old medium compound tyres. And Interestingly enough, Aussie 2K Goat goes onto the soft compound tires. Aiden in the Alpine goes to the hards as well. So maybe, from what I can see here, with people boxing, around that lap 8 to a lap 11 period of time, maybe if you were to box around the lap 15 to 18 margin, the later part of the pit window, then potentially that would work further in your favor, and you could use those mediums and softs back to back. Either way, Frosty up into P11, making a move against Risk in the Alpine, and these Alpines have been battling away so fiercely with one another. Websy back down to P2 against Finns and the Williams, but these guys need to try and work as a team, not work against each other as a team. Right now, they're looking like real life Alpine, and Aston Martin is off the circuit as well.
It's Cade.
Is that Cade McIntyre?
It
You're
is.
right. And it's on the hard compound tires. Those are the C1s, so they're going to be really hard to get up to temperature, and it's clearly not worked in his favor now. And he's done it again because his tires would be overheating, so now he's needing to try and slow down, but I'm sure in, the adrenaline of it all, he'll want to continue to try and speed around the circuit to the best of his ability, but he needs to slow down. He needs those tires to get back to a normal temperature. So right now, Aston Martin may be out of this race completely.
One man that might be in this race is Yusuf on the medium tyres. He's got clear track. The one thing that he cannot afford is a safety car for these top two to get a really cheap pit stop. That is the last thing that they need, as I think Cade has made it into the pit lane. So just really unfortunate, obviously having a moment at Cops, and that is pretty much race done, and has retired from the race. So that's bitterly disappointing for Cade. So it was right up there. I think just the hard compounded tyre was just the wrong choice. And I think he was outside 1 second from Yusuf as well. So he just did not have the pace, as you said, on the C1. Just the hardest tyre in the range, and you just can't do anything about it. As we have a look at the top two, again, nothing separating these two. We're still under yellow flag just for the AI car of Cade. We're down to 17, as it's got to be Vince that blinks first. He needs to make sure he drops it down to 60 kilometers an hour. Definitely does that. So it's going to surely be Websy in at the end of this one, because you have a feeling Finns will go onto a set of the Red Wall soft compound tyres.
It's clear to see that he's using those mediums to try and put it to the absolute fullest extent, go as long as possible, and then finally box onto the soft compound tires and do a single one-stop, which I believe every single one of these drivers are trying to do. Now here's the question. Finn's also going onto those soft compound tires, same as Apollo Pepsi. Right now with Finn's in P2, when he came into the pit lane, this activates almost an undercut in the favor for the Williams, an overcut against other drivers on circuit, but because he's so far out ahead, no problems, he'll stay in P5 with only Yusuf Goat on the 3-lap-old mediums coming to that area of time where he's now ahead of Finns. But we'll have to wait and see how he does on those soft compound tires. Aussie 2K Goat on a fresh set of what I believe is the soft compound tires and is P16, but with fastest lap to his name, so no point will be awarded for that if you even do award points in IRL for fastest lap. But Alpine in P8, I'm a noob in P7, a bit of a fight down the Wellington Straight, but nothing that really caused any overtakes to occur. But this is where strategy really starts to come into the mix. This is where we start to see less fighting, especially near the front of the field, more fighting more towards the rear, as drivers continue to try and use the extra grip and the right temperature window that these tires are now in to make overtakes and try and get into a position that they may want near the end of this race. They want to use the strategy towards their advantage, and they still can. But right now we can see Webster coming into the pit lane, and this could really be the intriguing part. Who can make the maximum of it, as Dodge also coming into the pit lane, P2, speeding in the pit lane penalty for him, 3 seconds for Aiden, and Tyler also coming in.
Yeah, so you got the soft runners intermixed with the hard runners, and obviously so much more grip at the soft compounded tyres. And Vince won't be too disappointed that he came out 2 seconds behind Yusuf, because he'll easily start closing that gap up about half a second. But it's got to be, where does Websy come out compared to Finns? Websy just hitting the pit lane, and he does come out, big undercut, and that's your second and a half, and that is all important, because Websy will not get DRS on this opening lap of
this is
his
the point I was
soft stint.
making before, though, Scotty, that now he's on a fresh set of tires. He's on a fresh set of warmed up, gripped up tires, soft compounds, C3s, against 4-lap-old medium compound tires. So he's got the fresher tires, he's got more grip on that tire, he's got the advantage in pretty much every way that you could possibly have it. It's now just up to the driver to use those compounded tires around what is one of the best circuits in the world and try and use it to the best of his ability to try and overtake Yusuf. So Yusuf with a 1.2 second advantage, but like I said, he was going to be undercut and then using that pace to then try and re-overtake Yusuf into P1.
Someone who's definitely using their pace is Chillpill in P6. Noob's got past Frosty. So this battle for P4 is going to be feisty. We have a feeling, unless something massive happens between the top three, I think we've got our podium sorted. We just don't know which step each of those drivers will step on. But we're going to see Frosty and Noob still fight it out. And Chillpill's going to try and stick the nose down the inside. Can't quite do it. Noob holds P5, but those guys on the soft compounder tyres are Silverstone. Oh, he locks the rears and going to be left vulnerable to dodge. Around the outside, should have the grip. No, he can't make the move work, unfortunately, and now he's got to look at the rear view mirror for Apollo Pepsi, also on new softs. So we're going to see plenty of overtake in the last 10 laps. And was it a little bit of a dive? Not quite. Meanwhile, I'm going to switch back to the front because it's going to be Fins and Yusuf half a second. So you can see Websy 1.8 behind. Fins, you have a feeling Fins has to get this move done on Yusuf now to avoid allowing Websy to get back within DRS.
Absolutely, and something else to consider, and I believe this was Urban also mentioning this, was near the end of this race that the softs and mediums will be on the same amount of grip. Obviously, when I mentioned it previously, I was talking about right now at that point that the softs are newer, they have more rubber, they have the extra grip in their favor, and you can see that clearly as he goes on the outside line of Maggots and Beckett's. What a move! Williams really starting to do something quite extraordinary there, and up to P1 goes the Williams driver, but with a solid slipstream and tow plus DRS, will take that inside line and will have no problems. Once again, up into P1, Fins really needs to try and make this overtake stick on the circuit if he wants to really try and get himself a good opportunity of winning this race. Obviously, like I said, degradation will really start to implement itself later into the race, so it will work later on, but obviously continue.
I'll just interrupt because we got this fierce battle.
Whoa.
Frosty, Silverstone. I will mention that Yusuf, while we're watching this battle, Yusuf actually let go of the throttle, so he made sure to get DRS, so that was tactical from Yusuf, but this battle is most certainly not tactical. These guys just want to get to the front of this train, and it is getting feisty. Dodge is down to 8th, so he's lost a couple of positions, and we nearly go 3 wide. Oh, and there's contact. Haas is half around, but he's got to drop a hell of a lot of positions as we go 2 by 2. Oh, and more contact. The Haas is around. Keeps it out of the wall, but may pick up a penalty. No, thankfully doesn't. But Frosty getting bullied as those soft compounder tyres just trying to make their way through the hard runners. And Sealpill up into P4. Apollo, Noob, Dodge, and WRC, Blickley, and the other Alpine have aided up into the 10. Just gets passed by Frosty. So plenty of action happening up front, which I will switch to now because it's 3 10s covering the top 3. So Websy has really closed up. DRS for the 2 behind the Williams of Fins. And Websy will get the move up into P2. All important. So this is our 3-way fight. And Yusuf just has to hang in there for the mediums to come back at the softs. So this race is far from over. We saw how Websy and Fins were battling.
Sorry, in the midfield, 4 wide as the racing continues down there. Obviously, racing still well and truly high at the top of the field, but racing is aggressive and close in the midfield. 4 wide on the hanger straight. Now sees Chillpill up to P5. Dodge back up into P4 previously. He was P2 at the start of this race. Still hasn't had the pace to get back up into that position, but he has held himself at the top of the midfield at the moment. The mid-pack has really lit itself up on fire, in flames. The damage, the carnage, the racing that is on display has been incredible and disastrous all at the same time. DRS is active for the kick. Sauber, can he get an opportunity to make a move against the Ferrari? No, just a little bit too far out ahead, but the Red Bull is also starting to close down that gap, and as Kick gets closer to the Ferrari, Red Bull will too. 2 tenths separates the McLaren in P2, 2P1 of Fins. Does Williams need to defend here? Will he give up on position to potentially get DRS? No, not like what Yusuf did. Yusuf Yusuf's just sneaking in on that DRS, still 5-10 separated, but here comes the McLaren driver. DRS on his side, the rear wing now open in his favor. Slipstream, toe, draft, done, dusted, sold in the favor of the McLaren, and as he goes into turn 13, a Stowe, P1, taken back to Websy in the McLaren. Yusuf still in P3, bringing himself closer, but still can't close it in all the way. Still trying and fighting, gripping with everything from rubber to tarmac, and he is trying to the best of his ability to really push himself closer. The softs will have the advantage for now, but those mediums will light up later into the circuit and later into the race, and then eventually they will be equal on pace all over again. Back in the midfield, Dodge down to P5, wheel to action between Apollo Pesci and P6 and P5, the Ferrari going into turn 1. Red Bull still making contact, but Red Bull still has the advantage as he goes on the outside line going into the next couple of corners. As Red Bull back up to P5, continuing to bring himself closer towards Chilpu and P4. Can he seem to make the move stick and stone? We approach into the Wellington straight. Red Bull will have the DRS, Slipstream and Tow and draft in his favor. Can he use it? A little bit of dirty air before it becomes clean all over again. Red Bull looking for the outside line, breaks a little late just after the 50-meter board. Can he make it stick? Now to the outside as they approach into Brooklyn. Really trying to make it stick now. Red Bull can't seem to get it done though. Still just there on the brink of a move. Really just staying there at the moment. But now as he continues through into Cops at top 9, who will it be now? Will it be the Red Bull? Will it be the kick? He has the opportunity. He has the momentum. He has the exit. But as they go into Maggots and Beckett's, it's still Kick who defends. Websy's down to P2 against Finns. Finns in the Williams back up into the lead of the race. We'll come to that in a momentary bonus. But right now, look at the Red Bull. Still right on the rear end of the kick. And finally goes down the inside. Ferrari on the outside line, nearly 3 wide, but breaks up. Now it's Ferrari up to P5. Apollo Pepsi up to P4. And Ferrari looking for Bale chicane. Still can't get it done. Red Bull up to P4. Ferrari continuing the attack. The midfield has never been so close here in Inters Racing League. And Season 7, with crossplay enabled, has enabled something so different and so competitive. It really is at the highest level of racing available. Yellow flag in the sector, in the third sector, and that allows McLaren to fall down even further positions. Ferrari and Peeves trying to bring himself closer back onto the Wellington straight. Can't seem to get it done, but DRS again. The midfield continues to fight. Finn's back down to P2 against Websy. Racing is absolutely everywhere, and it is exciting, and it is a marvel to watch.
Exactly, and I'll cut in, I'll give you a break because I have a feeling we'll need it for the last 5 laps. So Websy and Finn, still nothing between those two. Yusuf just hanging in there. We're in for a fascinating final 5 laps. Coming down the straight, it's Finn's the second car again, and this should be an easy overtake with DRS. Gets back up into the lead. It is going to be who wants to be the lead car going into the final lap. Oh, Websy goes a little bit wide. Could easily be a warning. Not sure how the warnings are sticking up, but you do not want to do that and lose a bunch of time as Dodge gets past Apollo Pepsi. So all these guys on the soft compounded tyres, but Newbin 7th's holding their ground on the hard compounded tyres. Frosty picks up a 3-second time penalty. I'm just wondering if these soft tyres will not have anything left, so I have a feeling we're going to see from 7th down trying to attack these 3 once again. But it's a second covering our top 3, lap 22 of 26. We have just under 5 laps remaining. Finns will have Websy with DRS behind coming down the Wellington straight. Will not be able to send a move down here. Tyler and Mr. Coolcars in the background fighting. And as you can see, from 4th all the way down to the Merc in 14th, that is our 10-car train. As we got a little bit of an issue with Aston running wide further down, Aussie up into P12.
Mr. Coolcars.
So having a bit of an issue. Frosty, after his moment, getting half spun at turn 3, able to get himself back up into the top 8. So plenty of action as we got Tyler and Aussie. We haven't shown much love for these guys, but they're going side by side out of Woodcote and the old start finish straight. Tyler leads that battle. Meanwhile, up front, Finns, Websy, Yusuf, half a second covering our top 3. Websy sits behind. Now, Dodge. We're going to keep switching back from the first battle to this mid-pack battle. I don't think Polo's close enough. And that will just give us a bit of a breather with 4 laps remaining. This top three is getting a hell of a lot closer. Yusuf, 11 laps medium tyres, but the age of tyres should be roughly the same. So, JP, I don't know who's going to win this. As I said, I thought Yusuf may have been out of it a little bit, but it's going to be... He's still there. It's going to be close. Fins onto the Wellington straight. Webbsy's closer, 2.5 tenths. Does he go for the move down the inside? No, he backs out of it. So I think he's happy just to sit there. He wants a last lap battle, and I think he'll try and wait unless he pretty much has to make the move. He won't try and get past Finn straight away, but he cannot afford to make a mistake like we saw at Stowe a couple of laps ago.
On these 11-lap old medium compound tyres, it's the smartest thing for him to do. He needs to allow his tyres to just wait a moment, save a breath, let it get into the right window in terms of temperature, and though his grip won't really come back to him, he can at least manage his tyres to the best of his ability. Right now, that's not exactly fighting these cars, it's staying with them, using the DRS, using the pace, and right now, we're about to see another overtake. Webbsy looking for the inside line, DRS again. Down the inside goes the McLaren driver, doesn't even need to worry about braking before the move was made, and McLaren back up into P1 with no problems at all. V-Carb right there looking for the inside line, but he's braking early, so your point exactly, he's not really looking to fight anyone, he's just trying to stick with them, and like I mentioned, just trying to save those tyres, manage them. Not exactly bring the pace to him, not exactly bring the grip to him, not exactly even bring the temperature to him. He's just trying to manage it so he can once again attack right near towards the end. We're approaching to the near the penultimate lap of racing, lap 25 and 26. We're currently on lap 24, and racing is still just as high as it was previously. Apollo Pepsi P5 as he brings himself closer towards the Ferrari in P4 of Dodge, and yellow flag in the third sector. McLaren coming into the pit lane. I wonder if that may be Shaunay's day over, or maybe looking for fastest lap right at the end, sabotaging whoever may want to take it previously. Apollo Pepsi in P5 bring himself closer, and right now a bit of a gap starting to form near the front of it. Not large, still 5/10 separated, but really starting to manage each and every one of their tyres and also manage their battery. They're really starting to consider how they want to attack these final couple of laps and who will come out on top. Right now it's Yusuf against the Finns, against Webbsy. Who will win this? Who will be crowned round 1, Season 7, Tier 1 race winner at the British Grand Prix? It goes down to anyone at the moment.
Yeah, and Webbsy might be trying to make sure that we'll have a look. Vince gets the move back past. I'm going to say, if you're the lead driver, you want third place to have a battle at second place, so you can maybe get that little bit of a gap. So it's sort of all on Yusuf in terms of if this sort of group spreads out a little bit. But Yusuf's just struggling a little bit in those last couple of corners, but it is still very close. 0.6 of a second. We're on the second last lap of this first round. What an action-packed race we've seen so far, and we've still got 18 more rounds of this left, so can't wait. So I'll take you through this lap. JP will bring you home, and it is calmed down a little bit in that mid-pack battle, so we will focus our attention on this pack for the top step of the podium. These guys are going to step on the podium. It's which order are they going to be? Can Yusuf fight through two cars to claim a fantastic first win of the season? Or can it be Webbsy tries to get back on the top step? Or will it be Finn's on debut picking up our Tier 1 race winner as we come through Cops for the second last time? I think Yusuf is getting close. He needs to get past at least one of these cars to have a chance for the race lead. Coming around Chapel now onto the Hanger Straight. It's got to be close, DRS from the two cars behind. Yusuf needs to get this move around the outside, or does Webbsy go the inside? Yusuf around the outside of the McLaren. Does he go around the outside of the Williams? Down the inside. He's got it. Give me a better camera angle, please, Vince. Just holds it, but Yusuf, that is all important for Yusuf. He's now the second car in line as we start the final lap. JP, take it away.
Flat to the floor, pedal to the metal here in Silverstone, here for the Great British Grand Prix, and V-Carb is on an absolute mission to win here today. McLaren's going to send it down the inside, and there's only two people who can stop him. One of them is Webbsy, back up into P2, and this is where you need to not even shiver, not for one moment. You need to make the most of it, and you need to do it right now. Onto the Wellington straight, Webbsy with DRS and using the slipstream and toe towards his advantage. Can't seem to get it done, so McLaren play into P2, but the gap is brought down. Finns needs to use whatever battery he has, over 87% in his favor. He needs to dump that battery like there's no tomorrow and use it towards his advantage, because he needs to defend in whatever way he can. Will it be Williams? Will it be McLaren? Will it be VCarb? He's back down to P3. McLaren on the outside line. We're going into Maggotts and Beckett racing at the highest pinnacle in Tier 1 for Inters Racing League. Who will take this? McLaren couldn't get the move done. Rear loss, and it's Finns out of this race from the win. And now it's Yusuf, who only needs to make one more position. Will it be Websy? Will it be the VCarb? It's still Williams in P3, but will it be VCarb? It doesn't look like it as we continue back down the slope, going into the braking, into Vale chicane, into the final corner before going into Hamilton Straight. It's McLaren and Websy who wins the British Grand Prix here in Silverstone for round 1, Tier 1, Season 7, Inters Racing League. Turn up to the max. It's McLaren on top. Apollo Pepsi finishes in P3 as Finns all the way down to P6. Debris across the timing line. It is Dodge in P4. Ferrari still manages to get it one. And Chilpill up to P5. More drivers spreading debris across the line. But it is done. It is dusted. It is McLaren who could hold on just a little bit longer. That was anyone's race. And unfortunate for the Williams, got taken out by himself, getting a little too overzealous on the throttle. Couldn't keep the traction with him. And by the end of the race, you have a completely different podium from what we were expecting.
Yeah, absolute heartbreak from Finns in P6. There was about a 13-second gap, so I thought he might have been able to recover just enough, but unable to do so. And Apollo Pepsi pinching the podium at the death, and you can see half a tenth of a second ahead of Dodge, and Chilpill wasn't too far behind. Finns in P6. Frosty, good recovery from the back of the field, remember, coming from last, and actually having a couple of little moments as well. So Frosty's done good to recover quickly in P8. And WRC and Aiden Williams Alpine running out our top 10, so points, remember, go down to P15, so all the way down to Noob will pick up points. Fastest lap, we'll have a look very shortly. If you're inside the top 10, you'll get that fastest lap point as well. But fair play to Websy. I think Websy would have had it anyway, because I think he was very close to Finn, so I don't think Finns would have had enough to hold Websy off, but that's a fantastic drive from him. Fantastic drive from Yusuf as well. He stuck around in that battle on those medium tyres. Nearly thought he had the win once Finns went off, but unfortunately couldn't do it. And then Apollo Pepsi as well. Shout out to him, picking up that final step, which you thought he wouldn't have grabbed, but a little bit of luck. Was in the right place, was ahead of Dodge when it happened, so fair play to them. But our podium getters, I think the TPs will be very happy, and I think everyone watching will be very happy as we have a look at our results. Websy, Yusuf, Apollo are our top 3. Dodge in P4, Chilpill in P5, Finns dropping down to P6, Frosty in 7th, Blickley in 8th, and WRC in 9th, and Aiden running in our top 10. Liquid Jake in P11, Tyler in 12th, Aussie in 13th, Mr. Cool Cars in 14th, Noob in 15th, Sean A in 16th, Cam in 17th, Cade in 18th, and Marcus Costa rounding out our 19 drivers, unfortunately DNFing.
Absolutely unfortunate in his favour, down in P19, and a few other drivers. So I believe it was also Cade McIntyre who joined him in the retirement of that, and Aston Martin actually had the pace on his side. That could have been a easy 4-way battle if Aston Martin still had the pace on his side. He didn't have the spin that he had, and it worked a little bit in his favor. I mean, maybe the hards could go the length, the distance that was necessary for a one-stop with ease, no problems in terms of grip or traction, but it was a problem in terms of getting those tires up to temperature. It's been a problem in both real life and in game, clearly. You know, the C1s are the hardest compound tire in the Pirelli range, even if the C0s are available. No circuit uses the C0. C1s is the hardest current tire available, you know, especially at a place like, you know, Silverstone. You know, it's not like it's been resurfaced in years. It's not an easy circuit for you to get correct. And, you know, especially for something like the hard compound tires, if you can't get them up to temperature, you will find yourself spinning around. You will find yourself losing that grip and that traction, and you will find yourself rather in a gravel trap or in a barrier.
Yeah, exactly. As we will have a bit of a chat with our top three, we'll try and get them into the comms box as quickly as possible. So I'll put the link in there. But as we take a breather, you most certainly need a breather, JP. What a race that we did just see. As I said, I think any of the top three at that point you could have put in for the P1, but it was just battles up and down that field, and that massive battle that we saw in the midfield after the first round of pit stops, absolutely fantastic if that's what we're going to expect for the rest of the season.
No, absolutely. This is what I signed up for. This is what I was kind of hoping for. I was really, really looking forward to seeing some fantastic, exciting action on display, and that is exactly what we got to see here in round one for Tier 1, here for Season 7 of IRL. Simply fantastic racing, constantly on display at the highest level, and that was seen perfectly as a perfect example here today. Just showing what these drivers can do, showcasing what they can do, and showcasing what type of championship we're going to have for the rest of this remaining season. Here for Season 7, like you said, we go all the way into roughly December, am I correct? So that just gives you an idea on how much racing and how competitive we're really going to start seeing for the rest of this season, and really just shows you how much entertainment we have on display for the remainder of this calendar.
Yeah, exactly right. So we're not too far away from getting our drivers in, but we will, if I've done this right. Here are your provisional results. As always, you can see on your podium there, Websy, Yusuf, and Apollo Pepsi were your top three. So McLaren picks up the first W in Tier 1 for Season 7. So fantastic, fantastic drive from all three of those guys. And it is Devastator, the TP of the McLaren, who will be ecstatic with that victory, picking up Websy with their first pick and paying off straight away in the new season. So we've got two of our three podiums. We've got all three of our podiums. So JP, do you want to have a chat with our third place getter, who probably didn't think they were going to be on the podium with a lap to go, but has found themselves up here in P3?
Apollo Pepsi, congratulations. You have managed to get P3 here at the British Grand Prix. How are you feeling after what is quite an accidental podium, but a podium nevertheless? And once again, another P3 to your name, a podium in your record of all leagues, and it starts here for Season 7 in IRL.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure I was going to get that podium because lap 1 I came together with Dodge in the Ferrari. I got a bit of wing damage. I think it was just my end plate, so it didn't affect my car that much. But yeah, at the end, I didn't think I was getting the podium. I think I was just fine for P4 the whole way, so that's what I was focused on more than anything.
Right. Did you carry that front wing damage for the remainder of the race?
Yes, I took it every stint.
Wow. I mean, listen, time is key, and you've clearly managed that to the best of your ability. So, you know what? Congratulations on managing both front wing damage and having that pace still on your side, even if it was only for P4. Still, that P3 working out on that final lap of racing. What was kind of going through your head throughout the entirety of this race? You know, in terms of strategy, it seemed like the mediums and softs, if you kind of boxed earlier into the race, you know, around that lap 8 to lap 11, you know, range, it was looking like tire deg was quite high for, you know, your second stint, and, you know, it wasn't really going to work out for you. But if you stayed out later, then tires would, you know, come to you at the, you know, later or the latter part of this race, and would work out later into the race. So how did you kind of work with strategy? What did you kind of do for your tires, and what was your kind of mental, you know, strategy going into it?
I don't really have a strategy. Because Red Bull, we all talk to each other. I just gave them a baseline strategy, and then I watched races, see what other people do, incorporate that into the next race for the next guys, and then see what they do. But
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking I was going to be able to race because my wheel was broken only a few hours before I actually got it fixed. So I didn't think I was actually going to be able to race. So I kind of just went for the risky strategy of medium soft and just hoping that I can carry that.
Yep, I didn't obviously see what lap you box onto those mediums, but I can only assume would have been a little later into the race. And like you said, you were carrying that front wing damage that may have not worked into your favor, but it's a fantastic P3. And how are you feeling for the rest of this season? Obviously, there's only round one. We have plenty upon plenty of rounds to come in a few break weeks as well. But IRL calendar has been set. So how are you feeling for the next Grand Prix, which I do believe, if I can get the calendar up in time, it is going to be the Bahrain Grand Prix, which I also believe is an enduro round. So a long old race for Bahrain for round two. How confident are you feeling going into that one?
Bahrain, not my best track. I'm not confident with it. I hate turn 10. That's like my most hated corner. But if I can just, if I this track, if I showed the pace I had it with Dodge and the Ferrari during the whole race, I feel like it'll be a good season between me and him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, you weren't exactly out of the picture. Front wing damage may have, just loosened your opportunities. But actually, let me ask you, seeing that we keep being on the topic of the front wing damage, let's say in a different scenario where you didn't have front wing damage, do you believe you would have had the pace for that podium all along?
I think if I didn't have the front wing damage, I would have been in that top 4 fight. Because when I came together with Dodge, I got the damage and I had a big oversteer moment as I hit him, so I had to save it at the same time, and that put me at the back of the field for that stint.
Absolutely. Well, no further questions on my side. Obviously, if Scott, if you want to add anything, but congratulations on P3 Apollo Pepsi. It's been a fantastic race from you.
Thank you.
No, nothing to add for myself, but yeah, congratulations, Apollo, on P3. JP, I'll just get you just to have a bit of a think of driver of the day. Hard choices that we're going to have to try and pick a driver, because
you've put me on the spot here. But
yeah,
we'll try.
no, there's definitely going to be a lot of drivers for that driver of the day, but we'll have a think about that. We'll interview our P2 first. Yusuf, fantastic race from yourself. You're a little bit different compared to Finns and Websy, obviously on the alt strategy, starting on the softs, going to the medium tyres. You're always having that disadvantage and then hoping for the tyres to come back on the last couple of laps. How did you find that? First, when Finn sort of had that spin on the last lap, did you think you could pip Websy around Stowe and get that first win of the season?
It's always tough to say with the circumstances, but I reckon Websy had the win sealed as soon as he did that move on me in the third, fourth corner, because I was not anticipating that Finns was gonna lose it, so yeah, that kind of messed up everything, because I was gonna try to get them both on the back straight, but Websy got that extra hand and that DRS too, so I think he had it locked as soon as he did that move, but yeah.
And as your race as a whole, you had good pace. Obviously, you four, along with Cade before his incident after the pit stop, obviously, if you four were well clear of the top of the second pack. How did you find the battling? Because we absolutely loved it up here in the comms box between you four. How did you find it actually in the driver's seat?
Oh, it was beautiful. I really hope I'm gonna go watch those battles back, and I hope they're like as good as they seemed, because they were really fun, and it's a big step up from last season with the crossplay and new talent coming in. It's gonna be a fun season for sure, and I can't wait.
And going on to next week, Bahrain, the Enduro. How are we feeling? Obviously, I think you've done well in Enduros from memory. So how are you feeling, obviously, being Bahrain? I think the first time we've done an Enduro there. So obviously next week, are you thinking hopefully another podium?
Yeah, I think we've usually gone well around Enduros, but yeah, another podium. I want to keep up the streak and keep up the consistency, and yeah, fight for the championship, and yeah, hopefully we're there.
Yeah, we're interested on next week. But again, big congratulations on you. You weren't too far off the top step, but second place. Great opening account to your championship this season. So well done, and we'll see you next week. All right, JP, we will come to you for our P1, it is the papaya colour on the top step. It is Websy.
Websy, mate, how are you? Congratulations, you have won the British Grand Prix here for Tier 1 Season 7 for Inters Racing League. Tell me, walk me through your race, walk me how you're feeling. That was an intense final lap of racing. That wouldn't have been easy on your side to defend, but you had battery on your side. You also had the DRS as you went down the hangar straight. So was it more just a mixture of staying cool, calm, collective, and make sure you were close enough to make that move stick? Or was it a mixture of just making sure you were behind him by the time you reached hangar straight so you can get that DRS and make sure the move was stuck in stone?
Yeah, that was a sweaty race, but those last couple laps there, when Yusuf got past me on the second last lap, I thought it was definitely over, but I managed to just get past him as he was saving ERS down into turn 3, I think it is. And then, yeah, I just had to stay close enough to Finn's on the final straight and hopefully get him there, because I knew that DRS is really powerful in this game, so I should be able to make the pass down there, but obviously he had a spin. And then, yeah, I had enough of a gap behind to Yusuf to hold him off, so yeah, it was a very fun last lap.
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, it can be more than just a single last lap, because that, I mean, pretty much from that second stint onwards, and even before that point, there was a lot of fighting throughout the top part of the field, and you seem to be involved in a lot of it. So how was it just kind of managing your tires and your fuel and making sure you weren't bending it out too quickly, and also just making sure you were maximizing your strategy to the best of your ability while also trying to stay right at the top of the field?
Yeah, I wanted to manage my ERS, manage my tires, but they just kept fighting, you know, like they'd be going for crazy dive bombs everywhere, and it was scary, but I managed to hang on, not get spun around, and yeah, eventually it fizzled down a little bit for the last few laps until the last couple laps, of course, but it was very scary, to be honest.
Absolutely. Do you believe, let's say in a situation where maybe Yusuf was behind you going down that hangar straight, or maybe there was a scenario where maybe Yusuf was on the different tires, you'd still be able to defend and potentially pick up that win? Or do you think it was more just the scenario, the case of it being where you were when you were, and tires being quite equal in terms of pace?
Yeah, I feel like at the end the tires were very equal, but before that the softs felt really, really good compared to the mediums. So yeah, it made it close on the last lap, and thankfully I still got DRS from Finn's after he spun, which definitely saved me. I think if I didn't have DRS there, then Yusuf would have got me. And yeah, it was just about keeping a big enough gap to Yusuf for the last lap so he didn't go for any dive bombs.
Well, you have a very big calendar ahead of you. All the way until the 8th of December is the final round on the round 19 for Abu Dhabi. So just kind of walk me through how you're planning to try and approach this season. This is round 1. You've picked up the win. It's a great start. But how are you going to try and keep that consistency and keep that momentum going into the remaining 18 rounds of action, and especially for Bahrain, which is coming up on the 14th of July, which is also an enduro round. So there's also one other enduro round, which is Mexico City in round 14. But obviously, Bahrain, next round, round 2, enduro round. How are you feeling for what I believe is upwards of 50 to 55 laps of racing?
I'm not really looking forward to it because it's one of my worst tracks, along with Silverstone. Bahrain and Silverstone are probably my 2 worst tracks. So to get a win at Silverstone is great, but the enduro at Bahrain is going to be tough because, yeah, I just really hate the track. And like Apollo Pepsi said, turn 10 is just an absolute nightmare on this game because if you lock up the brakes, the tires will wear so much. So yeah, I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm ready for it.
Absolutely. Well, in terms of the remainder of this season, in terms of what you've done here in round 1 in Silverstone, it's a fantastic start to your campaign for a potential championship. You are the championship leader now, so there'll be a little bit more attention on your side, and maybe a bit more pressure. So how are you going to manage that pressure and stay on top of things and make sure that you take away any doubt in anyone's mind that you should be a top contender in this season?
I don't feel pressure, so it should be alright.
Ooh.
Just as long as I just keep it on the track and just keep winning, it'll be fine.
Absolutely. Well, to be fair, that's a certain quote from a certain rally quattro driver back in the 80s. Anyway, it's been a fantastic race from you. Congratulations on P1, and good luck for the rest of the season. Also, for good luck in round 2, obviously being the winner of the Silverstone Grand Prix. Anything you'd like to add on to that, Scotty?
No, as I said, fantastic result from you, Websy, and as I said, it was a great battle to watch between all 4 of you at the start and then the 3 of you at the end. So, big congratulations, and looking forward to see what you can do next week in Bahrain.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
And also, just before you go, Websy, I believe with a little bit of nickering with me and the Twitch chat, and also just a bit more of a personal decision after people have kind of said their opinions, I believe you should be driver of the day here today for Silverstone also.
Well, I feel like that's a bit generous because there was a lot of guys at the back who came through pretty much the whole
that's
field.
true.
I think.
That's why I considered Frosty as well in the Haas, because he had a
Yeah.
fantastic way through the field. I also considered obviously Yusuf and also yourself, Apollo Pepsi, and it was tough because it was a fantastic race. Everything was so close, and there was obviously position after position being gained. Yusuf, obviously, you had a great go at constantly fighting near the front of the field, and that wasn't an easy decision to make. But I'm also just considering the consistency and the pace that you had on your side. And, I think overall with the win and also with the pole position that you got, I think it's only fair that you take driver of the day.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with that myself either. So, yeah, big congratulations on you, Websy, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, cheers.
All right, so
Anyway,
sorry, I was just going to say, that wraps about do it. We'll show the graphic because we want to see the graphic. That is your driver of the day. That was Websy. And fantastic job from our new championship leader for the new season here at Inters. That will wrap us up. JP, fantastic call as always from yourself. And what an opening race for Tier 1 that we've just seen.
It was, yes. It's always fantastic to come back to the Oceanic region and call some fantastic action on display. Some of the best racing I normally get to see on a consistent basis, and IRL has delivered once again with no shock at least I believe anyone's face, because IRL has always had fantastic racing on display, and they've done it again for season 7. So it's going to be intriguing for the remainder of this season. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm very glad to be a part of this, and also to have you as my co-coms for this season. So it's going to be a cool season ahead of us.
You're going to be an absolute ripper. So again, JP, thank you very much, and thank you for watching at home. What an opening round we've had here at Inters at Silverstone. 3 great races that we saw, and it's going to be a fantastic season to watch very close, and we're going to have a very close championship fight, I reckon, in all 3 tiers. So obviously we'll have our final results hopefully done towards the start of the week next week. We'll get any stewards results finalised, and then obviously we'll see what the overall constructors looks like at the end of round 1. And then don't forget to join us Friday night for our first Enduro of the season. That will be Tier 3 Friday night at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time around Bahrain. So looking forward to see how everybody does there. But again, big thank you for JP. I've been Scotty. Appreciate your company for tonight, and we'll see you next week as we go into the desert for our first Enduro at Bahrain. So until then, we'll see you next time.
Cheers. Goodbye.